everybody. Welcome to another episode of Wisconsin Weather Experts. It is Friday. Thank goodness.
Yeah, it's been a busy week.
It has.
I had a couple things going on weather-wise, but it's okay because this show is all about going deeper when it comes to the weather, and anytime we have things going on, of course, it just makes our jobs a little bit easier. We've got some stuff going on right now as well. We've got some light snow in the area, and with today's low and the way it tracked, it was very interesting to kind of watch. It took forever this morning to get going.
Right.
In fact, it was on the radar before it was on the ground.
Yep.
It was drying up in the dry air there, but it is finally starting to kick in a little bit.
It is. So southern Wisconsin's been dealing with some snow. Heaviest so far has been south into Illinois and Iowa. So we're not getting it too bad here locally, but it is Friday. Friday night fish fries, first Friday of Lent. So I'm sure a lot of people will be out and about, especially later today. Thankfully, the snow looks to end by then.
And sometimes the littlest of snowfalls can cause the biggest of headaches because we don't take it seriously enough. So yes, this isn't a big system, but definitely take care on area roads. All right, let's dig into it then. What else is going on the planet here?
Let's jump in. There's a couple of systems out there right now. I think the most impactful is the one making its way through our area. It started off towards the west yesterday and has just pretty much moved due east throughout, yesterday evening as well as today. So you can see the snow across southern Wisconsin, northern Illinois, Iowa, and then now extending eastward into portions of Ohio, as well as Indiana and southern Michigan. So I would say that's the biggest storm system right now. Still a low impacting New England states, bringing some good snowfall. And then another pesky low pressure system down towards the southwest. That's actually going to keep snow in the forecast here for a bit, especially for the Four Corners region and those higher elevations. There's currently plenty of winter storm warnings as well as winter weather advisories for decent accumulation, especially as you get to those higher elevations. Good news for the spots that still want that winter tourism or snow sports to continue. Denver, of course, one of those areas, as well as parts of southern Colorado into northern New Mexico, even the northern tip of Texas into Oklahoma, all going to be dealing with at least a little bit of some snow with that storm system starting right now. It's primarily across Arizona and New Mexico as we speak. There are also a handful of communities still dealing with some fire danger, and we'll likely see those red flag warnings expand throughout the weekend as the wind in southern states will pick up a little bit, thanks in part to that low pressure system that will be across southwestern communities today. But you can see a little bit of red here or there across Texas as well as portions of Missouri. So when you have that combination of very dry conditions as well as the wind, as we just saw with that last storm system, there will once again still be a fire risk going forward for those southern communities or the south portions of our country. Zooming back into portions of the upper plains, the Great Lakes region, you can see more of that steady but light snow in southern Wisconsin, darker purple south of us in Illinois, indicating likely some more moderate pockets of snowfall. Looks like it may actually be starting to mix too in some of our communities as well as towards southern Iowa and maybe on the tail end of this system as you get a little farther into Illinois down towards the south. Temperatures in most of these spots or near are above freezing. So even in the spots where it's snowing, it is that very wet snow where a lot of it at least initially melted, still accumulating a bit in spots though, especially on grassy surfaces. So what to look forward to in the next couple of days. This system that we've got here will continue to push towards the East Coast and eventually New England states, even by later tonight into tomorrow morning. Notice as we head into Saturday, that system that right now is across Arizona and New Mexico also starts to make its way eastward. As it crosses into some of that warmer air, it'll become more showers, more thunderstorms. There is a marginal threat for some severe weather near the Gulf Coast as this storm system continues to move through on Saturday. It is a pretty quick moving storm system though, so even just checking in with the National Weather Service, it does not look to be a big severe threat like what that last big storm system was just a couple days ago. But regardless, that will continue to impact southern states, even southeastern states heading on into the second half of the weekend. The rest of the country, Saturday into Sunday, will enjoy plenty of sunshine, and that includes those of us here in Wisconsin. Talking temperatures quickly, with that storm system across the southwest, it's actually keeping a lot of spots towards southwestern states well below average. We're talking maybe even 10, 15 degrees below average for today. There is still some heat ahead of that system. 80s expected across Texas, 70s towards portions of Louisiana, and those of us towards the north still a little below average for today, but will gradually be warming over the weekend as more sunshine makes its way on through. So Saturday, especially here in Wisconsin, we'll see those 40s return, and look at some of the air that eventually works its way into Great Lakes regions by early next week. We're talking maybe even first 60s of the season. We may drop a little bit by the middle of next week here locally, but then long range, it does still look like we have at least some warmth ahead of us. We know that this time of year is always back and forth. And speaking of back and forth, as we really look at the long range here, this is the next 8 to 14 days. Climate Prediction Center's temperature outlook, so March 14th to 20th, even as we are forecasting and looking far in the future, potentially around St. Patrick's Day, we may drop a little bit, but that's the way March is. Just a lot of that back and forth, and that's what we've experienced as of late too when it comes to our temperatures here in Wisconsin. So a bit of a warm up over the weekend, and at least for next week, 50s and even a 60.
Yes, a lot of folks looking forward to that.
Yes.
Yeah, that's kind of like a April, May type high.
Yes.
It's a little taste of what's a little farther down the road. We'll take that. I had a little bit of help this morning. Of course, we've been running our Future Forecaster program for many, many years now. Slight interruption because of COVID. But we had Omar on today. He did a spectacular job. He's from Oak Creek. He's a second grader at Salam School. And I really liked how he took to the big monitor wall stuff. He was like all over it, pointing at everything. It was great.
I love it. And you said he had quite the personality.
Yes, he likes soccer and basketball, which I joked was funny because one, you can't use your hands, one, you have to use your hands. So it's quite the combination. Yeah,
well balanced.
Good. And what his favorite subject is science.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah,
does he
right in.
Does he like weather?
I didn't quite get a straight answer on that. I think he was thinking maybe more like, going to space or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
And he wants to be a doctor, so maybe he's more into the biomedical kind of scientific stuff like that. But he did like flying in space on the green screen, so that was a win.
And this is such a fun program, Rob. I mean, this started when I was new here.
Yeah,
I haven't done it in forever, but I, remember, and it's so fulfilling.
It is fun.
The families love to watch it, and it's just fun all around.
And then I'll meet some of them. They're all grown up because we've been doing it for long enough that they come in as 7 or 8 year olds, and now they're adults. And I was like, "Oh, I was a future forecaster." I'm like, "You're a grown man."
Right, exactly. Like, when were you in here? That is incredible.
It's been a minute, but yeah, Omar did a great job. We're going to try to give the mic a little shout out on this show every other Friday. If you want to check it out, you can of course watch Fox 6 Wake Up. We do it in the 7 o'clock hour. And if you know a 6 to 12-year-old that would be perfect for that, go to fox6now.com and look for the Future Forecaster applications. Super easy. Do a quick video with the kiddo. You upload it. And little secret, we're pretty open to taking everybody.
You don't have to worry about
as long as you're in that age level. I've had a lot of folks that are like, well, what about a senior forecaster? And as much fun as it would be to have some of our local seniors in, that's an entirely different program.
Right.
Future Forecasters is 6 to 12.
Yes, and you can find all that information on our website. Every once in a while, too, we'll do auditions. We just had one, what was that, a couple months ago?
Down at Betty Bryn, so watch for that if you don't want to film it yourself. But it really is simple, and I'm being silly, but we are, encouraging everybody, and, it doesn't take a high level of talent to meet the minimum bar, because I always joke with the kids, there's no way to do it wrong.
Right,
Come in here, if you say nothing, it'll be cute. If you say everything, it'll be cute. It's all good.
Exactly. Fun for us, too. Absolutely.
It's a wonderful every other Friday on Fox 6 Wake Up. All right, so coming up here on Wisconsin's Weather Experts, I got a chance to talk a little bit about the future of our weather based on the past, as we talk a little bit about climate change with an expert from Climate Central.
Welcome back, everybody, to Wisconsin Weather Experts. We are now in March, which we know is the start to meteorological spring, but it's also the start to allergy season, severe weather season.
Right, eventually gardening season.
Yeah.
And over the years, all of those seasons have changed a little bit.
They have. You actually had the opportunity to sit down with someone from Climate Central to talk all about this.
That's right. Take a look. We're joined by Shel Winkley from Climate Central. You're a meteorologist there, and of course, climatologist, as that is your focus these days. Let's get into this because we are into a transitional season now. We've kicked off meteorological spring. We've got allergy season coming. We've got severe weather season coming. And I think the best place to start is with spring because, on one hand, we're really happy it's here. On the other hand, it can be very volatile.
That's right. Yeah. Everyone, I think at the end of winter, even if you've had a warmer than normal winter, you're just ready for those spring days, get outside, enjoy some nature, right? But at times, nature kind of attacks you too. So let's focus on spring in general. And what we know is that there's a good chance that a lot of the southern, eastern side of the United States this year we'll see an above average spring. And that's kind of in the trend of what we've seen. In Milwaukee alone, we've seen a temperature increase of close to 4 degrees just over the past 50, 55 years. So I'll show you here for the city of Milwaukee. We go back to 1970. That gives us a pretty good gauge of what has happened over the long-term trend.
50-year trend right there, yeah.
Right, exactly. So you can see that temperature has warmed up 4 degrees. And remember, when you're talking about this temperature, we're talking overnight lows, daytime highs put together within the months of March, April, and May, what we call meteorological spring.
Right, and averaged out over the years. I love this graphic because it shows the variation year to year. That squiggly line shows the highs and lows, but it's the line, it's the median, the line down the middle that shows that trend over time.
Right. And you may think, well, why does this matter? That sounds like a good thing. I'm tired of winter. I'm tired of the cold.
Yeah.
And when you look at the season, we talk about these above average days with weather, like you mentioned with this line, you're going to have these natural variations. But what we've seen within that almost 4 degrees of warming, that now adds about 15 extra days of warmer than average temperatures. So now instead of 30 in that springtime, which is about a month, now you're getting a month and a half. You're getting about 45 days. And this could come early. So that can mean you lose winter and you start spring earlier. And this could also mean much hotter temperatures at the end of spring. So summertime coming before you're really ready for it to start.
There you go. Which again is a lot of folks will find as beneficial, and it does have benefits in that, some of the winter being shortened is takes away some of the winter challenges, but there is a downside as well, because of course you've got a longer allergy season. Just because you get to garden for 15 more days doesn't mean that you're breathing as nicely as you'd like to for 15 more days.
Yeah, let's start with gardening. I think that's a really good point because I got to tell you, when you're forecasting the weather, those gardeners are hyper aware of what's happening. And if you have an earlier growing season, as it eats into the end of winter, but you can still have some of those late season freezes, that puts our plants at risk. So that's number one. Number two, as you mentioned, is just the sniffling and the sneezing, the coughing, the itchy eyes. What we know from Milwaukee, the allergy season is starting earlier and it's lasting longer. It's starting earlier at the end of winter and it's lasting longer into the fall season. So what that does is essentially give you about an extra month of allergies. And for some of us, that's okay. You're not really as impacted. But for some of us, it hits you hard. And that makes it really hard to get outside, hard to breathe, and hard to function in life as well.
So an additional 25 days in Milwaukee that might be allergy invoking, right?
Right. You're talking about 200 days now. And what we look at this as this freeze season. And so that's 200 days essentially out of the 365 that we have in a year that you have this, what's basically hurting your breathing or just being able to get outside and enjoy nature. And I just wanted to show you this because you're not alone. A good portion of the country, of the cities that we analyzed, over 80, close to 90% of us are also seeing these allergy seasons come earlier and last longer.
And of course, there's an economic impact there because if you use medication to help mitigate the symptoms and things like that, you're going out of pocket a little bit more often than you were before.
Right. So, and some of the causes that we talk about the warming in the atmosphere, we know that that's caused by, coal and oil and natural gas and the things that really warm our planet, that trap the heat in. It's also plant food. So that CO2 feeds our plants, which allows them to grow more, which again, sounds good, but it allows the pollen to be generated faster and more, but it also stresses those plants, the plants that we love to see. It really kind of wears them out. Kind of like you're running a marathon, they're running a longer marathon these days than what they used to.
That makes sense. So our gardeners with allergies are kind of caught in between two worlds here. They love the fact that they get to garden maybe a little earlier or a little longer, and that their plants are growing a little bit better, perhaps. But the end result is they're also sneezing and sniffling and stuffed up a little bit longer every year as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, let's
The
switch
price
gears
was-
here because we also have severe weather season coming up.
Yeah, so I think this is interesting because we think about spring as, severe weather. So it's that clash of the two seasons. Summertime, warm air trying to come in from the south, while wintertime's like, no, let me hang out for a little bit longer. So you get these big clashes, you get thunderstorms. And I wanted to start with just billion-dollar severe storms. We know that as we build more, as we build up our cities, build up our homes, that's one reason why we can see more damage when big storms do come through. But you'll notice that there between 1980 and 2023 for the state of Wisconsin, you've had anywhere from 40 to 80 billion dollars severe storms that have happened, and go just a little further to the south to Illinois, and that number jumps up dramatically. So this could be tornadoes, hail, strong winds, and we know with the warming climate, these storms aren't necessarily becoming more active, but we do know that they can produce more severe weather that goes along with it.
And we're seeing more extremes too, it seems like.
Right, exactly. So maybe you don't have as many thunderstorms or you go through these times of drought, but when the storms happen, we're seeing the rainfall heavier and we're seeing some of those impacts bigger. Now, when it comes to spring, I think this graphic is really telling. So if we want to weather nerd out for just a second, we talk about CAPE.
What we do
right?
on this show.
Yeah, that's great. And I love that. We talk about CAPE. It's the energy, the what the storms need to feed off of in order to get going. And if you'll notice, for Wisconsin specifically, you're seeing more days actually in the summer months that have greater thunderstorm potential. We're seeing a bit of an increase there. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to absolutely see a thunderstorm, just the fuel is there for those storms, and that could bring that spring severe weather season and last it longer into our summertime plans and our pool day plans as well.
Fascinating. And CAPE, for those watching at home, convective available potential energy, kind of the fuel to thunderstorms and gets them brewing, and sometimes feeds them to be even stronger. So by seeing more of this CAPE, we have even bigger potential for thunderstorms and stronger storms at that, correct?
Exactly. And I want to, just if we want to broaden, zoom out from our kind of hyper local view here, notice the eastern side of the United States is seeing this increase of thunderstorm potential.
Mm-hmm.
The West, who would love some rainfall, you can see how those thunderstorm days, those rain producing days are coming down. So that kind of adds into that long-term drought that they're dealing with there as well.
And very well illustrates the complexity of climate change, because what is increasing in one area is not necessarily increasing in another, but both will have impacts that aren't always a positive, right? Too many severe storms, too much rain in one area, and then not enough rain in another.
Right. And I'm glad you talked about kind of that difference and that shift, because that's one of the things we're seeing with climate change is, again, the number of tornadoes aren't necessarily going up because of climate change. And when we start talking about individual thunderstorms, it gets a little harder. We can see the big long trends, but those individual storms, you're still going to have that. That's weather, right? But what we know with climate change is that what is typically known as Tornado Alley has shifted. So we're starting to see more days and more potential for severe weather in places like Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee. Think about all the big tornadoes, videos and stories you've seen come out of just the city of Nashville over the past couple of years.
Sure.
So we've seen that shift to the east, and we've also seen a shift to the east and an increase in nighttime tornadoes, nocturnal tornadoes.
It can be the most dangerous because, of course, it raises challenges for warning people. They may be asleep, raises challenges for spotters because it's dark. So, yeah, this is, a huge problem.
Right. And I'm glad you brought that up, because, when I go to bed, I put my phone on the charger and it goes in do not disturb mode.
Right.
So that takes away your ability maybe to be aware of the severe weather. But I think you brought up spotters too. This is an area, when you get into Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, there's a lot more trees. It's not like the plains where you can see 7 counties over, right? Like you have the ability to see in the plains what you cannot see here in the deep south. So those are some of the biggest trends we've seen, at least with tornadoes, with climate change.
Fascinating. And of course, we'll continue to check in with you as we continue through our seasons here. We'll check back in and see, how summer in Milwaukee has changed over the last 20, 30, 40, in some cases, 50 years. Appreciate you taking the time, Shel.
Absolutely. And hey, if nothing else, happy spring.
Yes, happy spring. Yes, happy spring. There is something hopeful about spring no matter what, right? We know that it's going to get warmer and more comfortable, and even some of the ups and downs there are still things we look forward to, like gardening season.
Right, exactly. But the allergy side of things, I think already with our little brief warm-up, I've heard from people, is this setting in already?
Right,
so that is a reality.
The earlier start, the longer duration, obviously a big struggle for a lot of folks. And I think it also opens a window to people who are either highly tolerant or have just recently developed allergies to, of course, fall into that category now when they maybe haven't their whole lives. And all of a sudden it's not like, wait a minute, I really can't take this anymore because it's that much longer, that more prevalent, and probably bringing different allergens into the equation as well as those growing zones start to shift.
Yeah, I feel like I am one of those people.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, there you go. So happy spring, everybody. When we get back, we're going to have a little fun with a weather balloon, and Tom's got an update on a viewer question.
Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for staying with us on Fox Local. We ask everybody if you have a viewer question, to send it our way, and we love to answer them. Meteorologist Tom Walks had a great one.
Yeah, we get a lot of great questions in here. You viewers are helping us out with this show, and we love to hear from you and get an idea of what you want to learn. Let's hear what Tom had for us.
We've got a great viewer question from Cindy in Cudahy. Cindy is asking, what's the difference between the polar vortex and the Alberta Clipper? Cindy, this is a great question. Let me give you the short answer first, then we're going to dive into it. For polar vortex, think large, think air mass. For Alberta Clipper, think storm system. In fact, quick moving storm system. So that's the quick difference there. But let's talk about this. So the polar vortex is always occurring. It is a big cold air mass over the Arctic, over the North Pole, essentially. And sometimes that cold air mass will break off and come into our region and really cool us down. We've had that throughout parts of the wintry months in January into parts of February, when parts of the polar vortex will break off. So again, it is a big mass of cold air that always exists, even in the summertime. And again, sometimes we get some of that cold air breaking off into our region. Now, an Alberta Clipper, that comes out of the Alberta province in Canada, and these are zippy type systems that quickly move in from the northwest and move across our area. These can often dump a few inches of snow on us in the wintertime. So again, the polar vortex, that is a broad air mass, and Alberta Clipper is referring to where these storms originate, these areas of low pressure in Canada, and then they quickly zoom by us and can give us a few inches of snow usually as they come on by. So one is a storm system, the other one is an air mass. Great question from Cindy. If you have a weather question for us, scan this QR code, let us know. It's going to come right to us here in our weather office, and we'll answer it right here on Wisconsin Weather Experts.
All right, thanks, Tom. There you go. And that QR code still
Right
up on
there.
your screen, as you can see there. Again, it takes you right to the question. You fill out the form. It's very simple. It's fast. It's easy. And it gives us a chance to, know what you want to know.
Exactly, and great for us to get even more sciencey, which is exciting.
Yeah, because we do this every day. So we, sometimes kind of forget about the curiosity level because we've been in it for so long that we kind of, we take it for granted. But when you bring your new eyes to it for us, it allows us to kind of take a new look at things and get excited about it all over again. Kind of the same thing going back to the beginning of the show with our future forecasters, right? When you have the little kids in and they're all excited about being on TV and talking about the weather, gets you excited about it all over again.
Exactly.
Of course, no one was as excited as Balloon Man. We got to give it up to this this video here, of course, and it's gone viral over in Fort Worth, Texas. The National Weather Service does their job diligently despite the wind. It was huge wind gusts when this balloon had to go up. Important data, though, with this stuff. This had to happen.
Right, exactly. During these big storms like the one we just had a few days ago, that gives us all of the information or all the data that's happening high up, like where the airplanes fly, that higher level type information. They're very important.
And it seems like kind of old tech because it's a big old balloon.
Right.
But attached to that is some very new tech. The radiosonde within that is a box full of components. It takes dozens of different measurements from ground all the way up to that 30,000 feet.
Yep.
Whole show done again. Thank you so much for joining us here in Wisconsin Weather Experts. Stay safe in the light snow out there. We'll see you back right here on Fox Local on Monday.